they say they don't understand what gravity is. They don't know what gravity is. And I've heard a lot of things recently that support my idea that gravity is a push and not a pull. They were talking about gravitational waves. Light is a wave, so it makes sense that there would be gravitational waves. Light is what's holding you to the earth. Light is essentially gravity, a pressure from higher energy sources to a lower one. I think the light waves that are holding you and me to the earth are very large ones. Black holes are giant stars that's wavelength is too broad to be seen. So they're emitting light at a wavelength that is beyond human perception or any instrumentation that a scientist might have. Because if the wavelength is broader than the Earth, then there would be no way for anyone to perceive it. It's at the center of the galaxy and it's pushing everything away from it. And then all the other black holes, which would actually be stars, would be pushing, everything towards that black hole. If you take the math that says gravity's a pull, if you take the math that says gravity's a pull and you reverse it, it still all works, because reversal works in physics, except with entropy. If you just take all the mathematical equations and run them backwards, they're still all the same. Everything still works, except it's in reverse. The orbiting and all of those types of activities that are calculated as a pull will still work when reversed.
So you have the force of gravity. They say it's a pull. Something from inside the earth or whatever, mass pulls things to it. But that's not the case. All basically coming from the same place. The sun. Not a pull from a mass, but a push from another one, from the energy being exerted from the sun, and not just the sun, but all the stars. If you can see it, then you know that the light from the stars is reaching you. And if the light from the stars is reaching you, then those waves are reaching you. And those waves that are coming from the stars and coming from the sun are what is actually holding you down, holding you to the earth. If ships are in the ocean and they're both close to each other, they will slam together because the waves on the outside of the two ships they're greater in size than the waves that can be between the two ships, and so they'll force them together. So they know that light waves have energy in them. They know that light waves are a force or can exert a force. The light waves are what's holding you to the earth. The pressure from the light waves is what's holding you to the earth. The push from the sun is holding us away from it, not to it. So we're not being pulled towards the sun because of its mass. We're being pushed away from the sun. And the reason that we don't just fly off into the distance is because that force is equalized by all the other stars in the universe pushing back on us, pushing us towards the sun. The force of that sun is against all the other stars. And so that's why we orbit closely to it. We're basically to the furthest point from all those stars that we can be and not go into a star itself. And if we weren't in orbit, then we in fact would be shot right into the sun by the pressure of all the other stars. Because if you draw an arrow to show where the force of gravity is, the thinking now is that it's a pull. So the arrow would show that it's going into the earth. Okay, so you're being pulled. The arrow's still the same direction. But if you take that arrow now, that short arrow that would be in the earth, and you extend it out, draw the end of that arrow out further, then you see the real truth, and it's a pressure. It happens is because of the sun. Otherwise, everything would be completely motionless. It would be frozen. You get into the sun itself, and nothing can be really held together. Everything's almost like a fluid where everything flows because it's just too much movement, too much energy going on for anything to be held into one place. And so where you find life is in the zone in between. Everything that lives is in the transfer of the energy to the lack of energy. And you find life in that zone where not too close to the sun, but not too far from it, because the energy moving from one point to another is what makes life possible. But that's a whole nother thing.
You might wonder why the moon would orbit around the Earth, since it's not emitting light. But if you think about it, it is, because the sun heats the Earth. And that heat is infrared radiation, which is light. So the Earth is emitting its own light, which would be gravity, or pressure pushing the moon away.
To sum it up, gravity is a push and not a pull.